One, two, one, two, three.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a spectacular evening. Okay, so I'm gonna go for it and go ahead and hopefully you guys enjoyed this series. I am doing a Harry Potter reread, and I figured since I haven't read them, I think since the first time I read them, I want to just like talk about what they left out, what I don't remember, what I wish there was more of in the movies, and we can sort of go through it together and you can leave me comments and we can sort of like have a discussion about Harry Potter. So we are going to go into Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, whichever you prefer. I finished book one, and I have my handy dandy notebook of all the notes that I took of what I don't remember, what was in the books and not in the movies, that we can talk about for our Harry Potter reread series. But before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe, because it'll really support my channel, and I hope all you Harry Potter fans are ready to get in on the books of Harry Potter. Okay, so the first thing that I forgot about was chapter 1, where they talk all about like the Dursleys and them overhearing something that's happened to Harry's parents, and they couldn't remember Harry's name, and McGonagall as the cat is watching them, and they like don't really talk to Lily. There's just like that whole section of like the Dursleys that you get to see before Harry actually gets dropped off, and that is not in the movies, and I forgot about that because it gives you a really good insight into that family, and then you like almost don't want him to have to go there. You feel even worse for him because he has to go live with this family who doesn't care. Yeah, so that's one thing that I forgot about that starts off the book that is not in the movies. The second thing that I forgot happened was when he goes to platform 9 3/4, he actually meets Fred and George first and like talks to Fred and George on the train before he starts to talk to Ron. And I thought that that was kind of interesting because, you know, they really quickly in the movies established the trio, but actually the trio wasn't really a trio almost until the very end of the book. It was very like separate, like Harry was meeting all these different people before he really bonded to Ron and really bonded to Hermione. Another thing that I forgot was that Harry met Draco in Diagon Alley when he went shopping with Hagrid. He just didn't know who he was. And I thought that that was really interesting, and I wonder, like, I wish they made like a crazy extended version where they included almost everything from the books and the movies, because it shows you how little Harry knew about this world and like how manipulative like the Malfoys are, and I just like thought that that was really interesting of like he met Draco and had that whole like scene of like some wizarding families are better than others before they even got to Hogwarts. So I thought that that was like, I completely forgot about that, and I thought that that should be part of the movie as well. Okay, I have a question, and maybe this has been answered. I have to like maybe dig a little deeper into YouTube, but magic on the train, question mark? I thought that they weren't allowed to do magic outside of Hogwarts. Does that continue to the Hogwarts Express? Like once they leave the Hogwarts Express, they're not allowed to do magic? I would assume so, because in all the other movies, and I'm gonna assume when I finish reading the books again, they're doing like crazy magic things on the train with like love hearts or with like crazy firecrackers or the instant darkness powder. So maybe you can do magic on the train because you're on your way to school or on your way home from school, but once you get to the like the Muggle world, you can't do magic. That was just a question that I had. Okay, the other thing that I want to talk about that's not in the movies at all, I really don't think it's in the movies at all because I know the movies backwards and forwards, is Peeves the Ghost. I feel like they completely deleted Peeves the Ghost, and they gave all of the like interesting stuff to Nearly Headless Nick, and there's like a little bit of the Bloody Baron and Moaning Myrtle, which I'm starting to read book 2, so I wonder if there's even more of Moaning Myrtle that we don't remember. But I kind of miss Peeves because Peeves was like the jokester, and he would like get the kids in trouble, and he was there for a lot of the moments of book 1 for Harry, like to get them in trouble. So I'm kind of upset that they didn't include Peeves. I mean, I understand that they have to delete some things, but I honestly would have preferred more Peeves over Nearly Headless Nick, but I get why they did Nick because he's the Gryffindor ghost. Okay, the next thing that I found really interesting was that Neville was more involved in a lot. He was there when they met Fluffy for the first time in the books, which I completely forgot about. He was also there when they went to detention and not Ron, which is kind of crazy. And I get that the movies wanted to do like trio right from the beginning, but it sort of changes the story, and it shows you that like a lot of the kids were involved in the mischief more than just like Ron, Harry, and Hermione. Speaking of Hermione, she really didn't want to get involved in any of their mischief. until sort of like the middle end. Ron and Harry were sneaking out, and Hermione ended up getting locked outside of the Gryffindor Tower, and she ended up going with them anyway in the book. Not because she wanted to, but because there was no other option. So it's kind of funny, they make Hermione really like strict about the rules in book 1, and I feel like in the movies, right away she starts to break the rules when she's become friends with them. On that note about Hermione, Ron is so much meaner to Hermione in the books. He has her like 1 or 2 lines to her in the movies of like, she's annoying or she's mental or whatever, all that kind of stuff. But in the books, he's like really, really nasty and like doesn't really want to be friends with her. And there's sort of like a much stronger bond in the books between Ron and Harry as opposed to Ron, Harry, and Hermione right away. One thing that I want to talk about is Harry's relationship with Hagrid. I do think that they did a good job in book 1 of establishing Hagrid for Harry and then continuing that through the series. There's a couple of things in the book though that happened that I feel like they could have included to really make the connection between Harry and Hagrid. They used to send letters to each other all the time, letting him know like, how'd your exams go? How is school going? He invited him down for tea. You know, and I mean, they always go to Hagrid's hut. Just having like a snippet in the movie of just like sending an owl and them reading the owls. I don't know. I feel like I wanted more, like after reading the book and then I watched the movie, I wanted more, even more between the relationship between Harry and Hagrid. I mean, it's there, but I don't know. I think there's more to it in the books. Okay, the midnight duel that never happened, where Malfoy challenges Harry to a duel. He's pranking him, and then Malfoy ends up getting detention, and it was that whole sort of like school prank. I don't know. I just feel like the one thing that was lacking in the movies, I think throughout the entire series of the movies, was the like importance of schoolwork and classroom. I mean, we do the Wingardium Leviosa, and you have the like, they learn in book 2 or movie 2 how to duel, but there's like not so much importance in the movies on the actual schoolwork. And I feel like in the book, that's all they like talk about is like exams and studying and writing papers and doing all sorts of different things related to schoolwork, because obviously like Hogwarts is a place where they're supposed to learn how to do things. What? My puppy's a little sad that I've got the door closed. Can you say, Harry Potter? Harry Potter. The next thing I want to talk about is Nicholas Flamel. I completely forgot that Nicholas Flamel was mentioned on Dumbledore's chocolate frog card. So you like have that seed planted like right in the beginning of the book. And then that's what snaps for Harry when he remembers Nicholas Flamel and he gets another card from a friend who's collecting cards. And he's like, oh my gosh, Nicholas Flamel, he is with Dumbledore, and then that's how they sort of like discover more about the Sorcerer's Stone and Nicholas Flamel, as opposed to just like not knowing anything, and then Hermione like magically discovers it in a book. I mean, she does, she brings that book down in the book, but I kind of like wish that they kept that as a like seed planter for the movie. Oh, something else that I forgot about, which they sort of like changed Ron's entire personality in the movies, because in book 1 he gets into like an actual like fist altercation with Malfoy during a Quidditch match, which I completely forgot, and it shows that like Ron was actually like stronger and sort of like short-tempered and like willing to like stick up for people more than he is in the movies. They sort of make him like a scaredy cat in the movies, and I don't know. I feel like I have to finish reading the series to like decide whether I like his personality from the movies or from the books. But I think that they definitely changed his personality from book to movie. Okay, there's a lot of like hints leading to Professor Snape, but along with Quirrell. Snape and Professor Quirrell go to the Forbidden Forest, and Harry on his broomstick goes and he sort of like watches them talk, and Snape has sort of like been on Quirrell's back the entire time, which then I'm like, I mean, this is going into like why people do what they do in their like worlds, but like why wouldn't have Snape reported Quirrell right away? You know what I'm saying? If like we've got Halloween and then we've got the Quidditch match, I don't know, I feel like Quirrell would have been gone. There's too many coincidences. So I forgot about that. Oh, the whole Norbert the Dragon thing, they completely changed in the movies. In the book, they write a letter to Charlie, Ron's brother, and they end up doing this like a whole thing where Malfoy finds out about the dragon. He tries to get them in trouble, and Charlie comes to get the dragon. They take the dragon away, and he goes to Romania. I mean, in the movies he goes to Romania, but there's that like whole missing section that you like learn about Charlie as a character, which I'm really trying to remember. I don't think we ever see Charlie. We see Bill. We don't ever see Charlie Weasley. So I kind of wish that they did that. so that you get the full scope of the Weasley family. Oh, I mentioned this before. Neville went to detention, not Ron, which I also thought was like really, really interesting that there was a lot more of Neville in this book, included with their adventures as opposed to just Ron, Harry, and Hermione. Oh, when they go down the trap door, there's a lot more that was involved to getting to the Sorcerer's Stone than actually in the movies, and I totally get it because of like time constraints, but all three of them rode broomsticks to catch the keys, which I know that that's a lot of CGI, and obviously like you rewatch movie one and the CGI, I wish they would have made it now, because the CGI is not great. I mean, it's pretty terrible because it's, you know, at the time they didn't have what they had when they made movie 7 part 2. But yeah, so all three of them rode broomsticks to catch the keys, and then when Ron got injured on the chess set, Hermione continued with Harry, and there was a knocked out troll. So we've got another troll, which again, CGI. So there was another troll, and and Hermione continued with Harry, and then it was at that point that Hermione was like, I'm gonna go get Ron, you keep going. There was also a logic puzzle that Hermione had to help Harry solve in order to continue on to the Sorcerer's Stone. So there were like 3 major puzzles in the trap door after the chess set. I don't know if they mentioned this in the movies, but I forgot that Quirrell was the one that tried to steal the stone the day that Harry went to Gringotts. I completely forgot about that, and it makes total sense because he's introduced to Quirrell that day at Diagon Alley when they're going in. I don't know if I wanted them to include that or not. I mean, maybe you just have to like assume if you've read the books, you should know that that's actually what happens, but I feel like maybe that could have been another like realization that Harry makes when he sees Quirrell in the trapdoor room with the Sorcerer's Stone. Another thing, I mean, we just assume because Harry gets knocked out in the movie is that somebody has to save him and bring him to the hospital wing. In the book, though, Dumbledore actually goes and like intercepts Quirrell from hurting him or Voldemort from killing him. So there would be like a physical like Dumbledore being there with Harry to save him. And then also, in the book, Dumbledore admits to giving Harry the invisibility cloak, and I don't think that they mentioned that in the movies as well. And I think that that's really important because there's so much between Harry, McGonagall, and Dumbledore in book 1 to try and help Harry as much as they can. Like, McGonagall gets Harry the Nimbus 2000, she gets him onto the Quidditch team, you know, Dumbledore gives him the cloak. I just think that those would have been significant to like make a bigger deal of in the movies like they do in the books. Oh, something that was at the very end, which I don't remember, and maybe because as I like continue on reading, is that Snape saved James Potter's life. And I mean, obviously there's going to be more as I continue reading. Like I said, I haven't read them in so long, but I wonder what that is and why they didn't sort of plant that seed in the movie as well, because obviously you know that we have that major arc for Snape. So that's something that I forgot about, and like I want to know more about when I'm rereading. Okay, and the last thing that I want to bring up, which this is like a J.K. Rowling thing that I like can't believe that she probably thought of this like right into book 1, but it's the quote. It says Harry says this, it's almost as if Dumbledore thought I had a right to face Voldemort because he gave him the cloak. He didn't really try to stop him from going down the trap door. And like I wonder, for Dumbledore, like was that his way of like trying to kill Voldemort right away when Harry was there movie 1? Do you know what I'm saying? Because when we get to the end, there's that whole confession that Dumbledore says that like you were raising him to be killed by Voldemort because he ended up being a Horcrux. So like, did she have that idea? Was Dumbledore trying to accomplish that right away when he was literally 11 years old? I don't know. But I thought that that's a really important quote that could have been a seed plant in movie 1 as well. And that is something that I was like, oh man, like, did she, when writing book 1, did she know that that's how this was going to end? I just can't believe, like, you think about the world that she created, and I just, like, I feel like you could do a whole debrief and, like, analytical, you could do a whole debrief and try to analyze every single part of this book or this series or this world. Yeah, that's just some of my thoughts about rereading book 1 again, like literally since the first time that I read it. In terms of book versus movie, I have to say, I'm gonna say both for book 1. The reason that I say that is because there's a lot in book one that's missing, like I said, all of the things I wish they would have included in the movies. But the thing about movie one, even though the CGI is not the best, you get to like visually see the world. And I do love reading and creating the world in my own head, but to be able to visually see Hogwarts and like the spells and their uniforms and like Quidditch, I don't know, there's just nothing better than being able to do both, to read. And the first book is pretty short compared to the other one, so you could read, I read this in 2 days. You could read this really quickly and watch movie one, and I think I like both of them. I'm very interested to see, because I am a avid movie watcher. I love the movies so much. Whenever I'm sad or wanting to, I don't know, just escape, I always put the movies on. I love them so much. And I was like, oh man, am I gonna like hate watching the movies now because I'm rereading the series? And honestly, for book one, the answer is no. And I did. I read book one, and then I just finished watching movie one. And yes, there are things that I wish that they included, but I totally understand because they have a time constraint with movies, like 2.5 hours. I will say though, I mean, there's no way that they could do this now, but they could literally film every single piece of all of these books, and there would be a fan base who would watch the 10-hour movie that they would make. Almost like a Game of Thrones. Like, I almost wish that they made Harry Potter like a TV series in which they did like 80 hours, because like Game of Thrones was an hour and they did 8 episodes. I don't know, I think that would have been cool. Also, YouTube, are there rumors of them doing the Cursed Child movie with Rupert, Dan, and Emma? Because that would be fierce. I would be so totally game for that. Listen, let's get into a conversation. I am all game to talk all things Harry Potter. I hope you guys like this video. Again, before you go, please don't forget to subscribe because it'll really support my channel. I am going to make this a series. So I am 1 day into reading book 2, and when I finish book 2, I will watch movie 2, and then we will do another rereading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.